Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to Good Morning Brownsville. My name is Frankie. This is Roman. Good morning, Roman. How's your day going so far?
Oh, sorry, I'm muted. I was like, "What are you playing? I can't hear anything. I'm deaf. I've gone deaf." What's going on, dude? How's everything?
Oh, nothing much. Looking forward to this weekend. A start of a busy one. Today, ladies and gentlemen, today we'll be talking politics with two local entrepreneurs. A lot is in the works, Roman. A lot of what happens in the very near future will ultimately affect the citizens of Brownsville, potentially for the next 30 years. Today, Roman, we'll be having individuals who have been very outspoken. And that's one thing that we focus on. We want to give those people that are outspoken an opportunity to, give their message to the world. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be having Mr. Arturo Trevino, operator of Trevi's Drive-Thru and Mocambo and Captain Bob's Restaurants, Mr. Robert Sanchez. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning, Frankie. Good morning, Roman. Good morning to all the people that watch the show. Good morning.
First and foremost, thank you so much for joining us today. As we were stating, there's a lot of important topics that will be affecting the citizens of Brownsville. Today, we invited y'all to talk about politics. As the saying goes, there's never a dull day in the city of Brownsville. First and foremost, how's y'all's morning going so far?
So far, so good. Still myself at school. It's Columbus Day, so there's no school at Jubilee. So I got her on the other side of my studio watching cartoons and coloring books. Well, my morning's good as well. I was in Matamoros last night and enjoyed a wonderful concert over there, a public free concert that the city of Matamoros hosted at their main plaza out of a kiosk. So it was an interesting experience yesterday. There was over 12,000 people yesterday. And today, well, it started slow because of it's a holiday. I usually start the day Mondays with a lot of activity when their banks are open, but the banks are closed today, so it started slow. But eventually, I'm gonna have to go visit my stores and do all this type of inventory and all the tedious part of being a business owner.
You spoke about the event in Matamoros this weekend. What I appreciate of each of you is that you promote Brownsville. Just last week, I believe we had a beer fest. We need to incorporate those events that promote Brownsville. That's going to help with putting monies into the mom and pops, into the restaurants, into the establishments that are here in Brownsville. First and foremost, if I could get your opinions on the direction of politics of the city of Brownsville, is it promising for the citizen of Brownsville here living in our city?
I, you know, I went with Arturo to Los Fresnos the other day, and it was a free event at the rodeo with free food, no cover charge. We had a wonderful time with 5-star brisket chicken and pork and beef ribs. It was very enjoyable with free music. I don't see that in Brownsville. So that's why we pushed that idea when they were pushing for the arena. You would have had parking, cover charge, payments inside the arena. Thank God the arena did not pass. We love the Gladys Porter Zoo. It's the quality of life for all of us here in Brownsville. But nowadays, as a small businessman, entrepreneur, I'm a restaurateur. He's an international businessman on both sides of the border. He's got his issues, and I have my issues. Life has been very difficult for the last 3 to 4 years. Things have gotten very expensive. The cost of goods have gone up. It's a challenge for these young people that want to start a business or even buy a house. Okay? I owned a home outright, but due to life circumstances like divorces, I had to sell my house. And so I've been renting for the last 3 or 4 years. I'd like to buy a house, but this new situation with taxes possibly going up because of the bond, I worry about my future as far as a homestead. But we just keep on trucking away, and I'm a survivor. But I got a little 5-year-old, and I just finished with another $60,000 in child support. So that sent me back a little bit. But we just keep on surviving.
And Turi, how do you see the current state of affairs for the city of Brownsville? Are we doing a good job of promoting, of taking care of our city?
Well, I think there's a lot of events going on in Brownsville. Some of them don't have enough backing. Some of them do. Um, but at the end of the day, it's up to the promoter that's putting up the show to come up with a good promotion scheme and let the whole community know about their event, even outside the city limits. Because at the end of the day, the reasoning behind having an event is to bring quality of life to our community members, but also to bring some tax dollars into our city uh, and spend money here, maybe on hotels and visiting our attractions locally. And an event could be the anchor for that. As you know, I was one of the founding fathers of Beer Fest, and that was the intention back in the day when we created it, actually 13 years ago, that that certain age demographic didn't have an event to go to, and they had the need to go and travel to the island and to McAllen to search for those types of events, even further Austin and San Antonio, with all the cost implied and the risk going back and forth on the highway after having some drinks. So that was the main idea behind creating Beer Fest here in Brownville.
Interesting. So there is a lot of work and a lot of need, and there's no question. The island has so many events, and the city of Brownsville could look to create that atmosphere that we so desperately need here in our area. For the sake of today's talk, again, there's so much to talk about when we talk about Brownsville. But Captain Bob made an interesting point that you know the quality of life that we once enjoyed is possibly something of the past because of this possibility of raising property taxes. What's y'all's take on this initiative taken by the BISD board of potentially raising the citizens' taxes?
So my take on this is I sense a an urgency of passing this bond, and I don't know why such of an urgency of pushing a bond in that way, and that urgency. We understand that every building needs maintenance, but we also understand that there's already a budget in place, and there's other ways, and more creative and more efficient ways to tackle on this. Let's take, for example, the HVAC. They're saying, oh well, the quality of air on a lot of the classrooms is not there. Some don't have air, some do. At the end of the day, why ask for a bond for something like that that cannot be all done at once? You cannot take care of all the schools at once. How are you gonna repair all the air conditionings at once? There has to be a program, a maintenance plan in place, because at the end of the day, you can only have those repairs done during the summer because no one can be in the classrooms. So I don't see the urgency of a bond. There could be better planning, and it could be probably structured within the $609 million budget they already have.
And my concern is a high interest rate on those bonds. I mean, the interest is bypasses the principal amount they're trying to get by about 110%. Why couldn't they negotiate that? lower. Now, we gave Dr. Chavez the idea of getting the contractors to finance the work. Give them a little bit up front, have them finance the rest, and be paying them with no interest. That interest is mind-boggling, in my opinion. Okay? Sometimes I get loans for the restaurant, and it's with a 20% interest, which is higher than the bank.
At the end of the day, the interest is going to be passed on to the taxpayer. You know that, right?
Right, right. And like somebody said, look, Stella, your daughter's 5 years old. By the time she's 35, the bond will be paid off. But she's going to have to live her young adult life with the burden of those higher taxes. So that's a concern to me. And like Arturo says, with that $605 million budget, 609 million, excuse me, why didn't they use some of that money for maintenance? Okay. And I understand they say 70% of that 609 million is for staff.
Well,
And that sounds
well, we're running into the same issue with the city. You know, the most of the budget goes to staff. Um, at the end of the day, there's two solutions to this problem. We either cut costs or raise enrollment at BISD. That's the only solution. And we see everywhere around town, we see the BISD promoting their bond instead of promoting enrollment. Their competition, which is Jubilee, Ideas, they're out there. They're not losing focus. Their focus is on enrollment, and they're eating BISD's lunch. They have to refocus all this and go for enrollment. Because at the end of the day, we think that the BISD bond is a bailout.
Oh, absolutely is a bailout for them. Guys, what do you think about the fact that you have all this enrollment? You had the State of the District address last week. You had the superintendent talk a little bit about attendance, because a lot of the money that BISD gets isn't necessarily just from taxes, but it's from the state because of the daily attendance of students, and talking about how there's not a lot of, they're what, 90%, that's what they're shooting for. Why are they shooting for that number of people when they should be shooting for 93, 94, 95? Is it because people are not are not bringing their kids to school? They're not being forced to come to school? Is it because you have judges who are being lenient with these parents about truancy, essentially, but these kids not coming to school, which affects the bottom line for the school district? And instead, they're not focused on, talking to those parents, forcing those parents, and working with these judges. Maybe it's the judge's fault. I don't know. Is it, instead of doing that, they're focused on doing this tax increase, but they're gaslighting the voters. They're talking to bloggers and social influencers, or people that live in Rancho Viejo who don't even live in Brownsville, who probably don't even pay BISD taxes, going out there and talking to those people and trying to encourage them to promote this tax increase and gaslighting voters. What do you think about that, guys? What are y'all's opinion?
Well, that's the reason I was in the show. Remember, one of the bloggers dragged me into this debate because I didn't have a child and I didn't live in the Brownsville ISD district, and that I was a member, or I graduated from a private school, so I didn't have a say so in this topic. But let me tell you, 4 months ago, I changed my address to my homestead now I changed my homestead to Portofino, which I just checked, and surprisingly, I'm in the BISD district now. I haven't procreated any children, but I'm spending some dollars over there at the BISD district through my property taxes, obviously through my 4 businesses, I pay property taxes to BISD. I even pay inventory taxes to BISD. So I think I have a say. So even though I don't have a child and I didn't graduate from a public school.
Hmm. So, Bob,
The
what are your thoughts?
the system seems unfair because this glass table, Arturo and me are sitting, I gotta pay taxes because it's proper. It's furniture,
Personal property.
and equipment inside the restaurant. I have to pay taxes, and part of it goes to the BISD, which is, I guess, okay, even though my child goes to Jubilee. Now, when I go to Jubilee in the morning, the line is very, very, very long with all kinds of Brownsvillians dropping off their children at Jubilee. And the other Jubilee out there on the west side, also long lines of people going into Jubilee. I really haven't checked out IDEA, but I know they got beautiful, big, brand new schools. Um, it's just at this time in the history of Brownsville, I think it's overburdened to do this to the citizens
Hmm.
because we're all trying to save in other areas of life that are difficult, like groceries and PUB and rents and mortgages. It's just too much.
Hmm.
So what Arturo said would tell me, because he gives me a lot of advice, and he goes, "Well, Rob, just hunker down." I said, "I am. I'm just go home and we stay in the house. We're not going to fancy restaurants or anything like that.
Hmm.
We just go to Bob's or Mocambo, where Captain Bob eats free." So I think that everybody's hunkering down. Even going to the movies here in Brownsville, I got to end up dropping $60, $70 for the popcorn and the drink and the movies. It's killing me. And then she wants to get in the carousel. That's another $20. Then she insists on going to the jumpy thing. That's another $25. And I end up going $125 at the mall. And I don't even come out with a bag.
So you were hunkering down.
I'm trying to hunker down.
Just last week, the superintendent had the state of the district where he addressed the community. A large portion of his presentation was on the bond. The interesting thing, gentlemen, about that state of the district was the people in attendance. We had our Cameron County Judge Eddie Trevino. We had our City Mayor John Cowan, Precinct 2 Cameron County Commissioner Joey Lopez, in support of this bond. And we've heard of other politicos. As of right now, it is my understanding that they are in support of the bond. What is y'all's take on this issue? Are our politicos doing us a disservice by being in favor of this bond?
Well, that's how it started with the arena. Everybody was in favor until they saw the details and what the community actually wanted. At the end of the day, the community is what votes for them. And most of the community, well, the results were there. I believe it was about 65% of the community rejected the arena bond back in the day. So once they start seeing that the actual voter is not for the bond, some people will start changing their minds because they depend on the voters to keep being reelected. My concern is that maybe we do need repairs. Yes, we do need repairs in a lot of the buildings, but there could be other ways to repairing all these infrastructure that the BID has. The easiest solution is going for a loan and getting us in debt. Let's go back to the drawing board and see what other solutions are there. Maybe a smaller bond, maybe a bond just for the HVACs. I don't see an urgency for example, for a performing arts center. I don't see a need for that while we have another taxing entity that owns a performing arts center that is most of the time empty. So they should be creating an MOU between all these taxing entities, because at the end of the day, all these people are benefiting from our taxes, and you see them on our tax bill. So so maybe, and I've been researching a little bit of BISD. They all have a some type of amenity or some type of a performing arts. Maybe it's a small one, but they all have a building in their high schools which they could be reciting, having those recitals. And maybe when the main show comes, okay, let's move it to the TSC Performing Arts Center. Or maybe for the future, UTRGV is also talking about another performing arts. Maybe they can do it there. I don't see a need for the BIZ to have another one. And if it's a small presentation, well, we have the Camille Playhouse also there available, which is not utilized every day. So let's optimize our resources, go back to the drawing board, and come up with a better solution.
Mm. Um, Jessica is pointing out that they will keep pushing. There must be going on under the table. Their repairs were supposed to be accounted for in the yearly budgets. What do you think about the cost of some of these schools that they're fixing? You have millions and millions of dollars for some schools. One school has like 36 million dollars in repairs. Another school has 19 million dollars of repairs. And you even have Veterans High School, who was recently built, 10 years ago, has about $9 million worth of repairs that they want to fix. And it told, all these other schools. Do you think that they're just overshooting, that they just want so many of these schools repaired that it doesn't make any sense? What are your thoughts on these repairs that are being done?
Well, that's why we're referencing. We're almost saying this is a bailout. It's not
Mhm.
a bond. It's a bailout for all their mismanagement that has been going on in the past. Um, I think we need more transparency at the end of the day, so the community knows. And let's not rush into things. If we have more transparency, and there's a need for a bond, maybe a smaller bond, well, maybe we'll back it up
Mm. Yeah.
as a committee.
I want to make this clear. Captain Bob, since I run a little show for the people, by the people, and it's gotten some very popular with the viewage. And I wanted to stay in a neutral position on this, but because of a certain blogger that is shredding me, that's a promoter of the bloggers, promoter of the bond, but has offended me and is vicious. What, Stella? The lady took it, Maggie. She'll be back right now. Relax. And so that's why I came in finally and said, well, I'm against the bonds. Even though Dr. Chavez comes to Captain Bob's and eat, and I'm very grateful for him and the other administration coming next door to Captain Bob's to have lunch. Okay? Sometimes they're here with large groups. Sometimes they're here with a former superintendent of BISD who's now running McAllen Independent School District. I'm very honored by them coming here, but I needed to give the opinion because of that particular blogger that's attacking me and my friends. I don't like it. Also, that particular blogger puts all these elected officials up front, that they're for the bond. And we need to be careful with those elected officials when they run for re-election, because if they're promoting this higher tax because of the bond, maybe they shouldn't be in office. Now, hopefully they're listening, because I'm sure about half of them aren't giving that blogger consent to put them out there that they're for the bond. For example, he was putting me out there 3-4 weeks ago that I was all gung-ho for the bond. I just stayed quiet until he saw one of my shows, and voila, because I exposed him. He's very easy to expose. He has a long history of bashing people, putting nicknames on people, all kinds of nonsense. So I think you know what I'm talking about. I just don't want to say his name because he loves it when his name is announced.
Do you think it's appropriate that I mean, I don't know. Do you think this guy's getting paid by people to promote the blog or the bond, sorry? Or do you think he is doing it on his own? And if he's not doing it on his own, if he is getting paid, do you think it's odd that the school district is associating themselves with this particular blogger, and promoting this bond? I'm just
Very
curious.
odd. It's very odd. And like Catalina Presa said on a show the other day, goes, Robert, he doesn't do anything for free. So it's something smells fishy with that blogger.
Catalina also mentioned that Dr. Chavez came and spent $15 here.
Do you find it weird? Do you find it odd that here we have two very public elected officials in Eddie Trevino and Joey Lopez supporting this bond
I
when
mean,
when
you
in
mean Denver?
reality Joey Lopez was present at the state of the district.
Oh
He
yeah.
is the part of the bond.
Oh,
So, do you find it weird, gentlemen, that the county judge and commissioners that they're more worried about raising their salaries with our taxes that provide services to its citizens, and then they go and encourage this bond that's going to ultimately increase the citizens' taxes? Don't you find it as them being disingenuous with this?
Well, it's our fault. It's all our fault for not being informed and not, or maybe it's our fault because there's no media. There's very little media. The only media here is probably the Captain Bob show, your show, and the bloggers that are on the other side. So at the end of the day, we are a misinformed community,
mm.
and that's why they can get away with a lot of stuff.
I mean, you right now you have unions out there, bashing people. I saw one of our former educators, a former candidate, Nelda Rocha, being attacked by one of the unions on social media and saying that she was being misinformed, and they were almost ashamed of her. It seemed like that she was a former educator and not understanding that this bond, sorry, was not a tax increase, because that's what these unions are saying. They're promoting the fact that this bond is not a tax increase, and you just ask questions, say, but it is. Your own data says it's a tax increase. What are your thoughts on the unions out there, seemingly, being lockstep with the administration and saying that this is not a tax increase, even though it really is? Like there is no question it's a tax increase.
Well, all these unions have a pact, and all those pacts are allowed to donate to their campaigns. So basically, they have a stronghold on all these candidates. Um, these candidates are not people's candidates. They're they're appointed by the contractors and those
Special
PACs.
interest.
Special interest. That's the word I was looking
Hold on.
for. Problem is, I didn't go to BIZ.
What?
I went to St. Joe.
Yeah, there you go.
So basically, the special interests dictate their agendas. Um, but what most is disturbing is that at the state level, the governor is trying to give incentives, homesteads, and discounts to the property owners, and then these people play the numbers and want to tag all these bonds on us and say that, oh, they're not going to increase. Well, they're not going to increase because the homestead is lowering it, and instead of you keeping it lower or discounting our property taxes and our property tax rate, you go back up with the bond. So it's a play with numbers. They're actually playing with the numbers, and at the end of the day, instead of us saving money, we're not going to save money through our property taxes.
Mm. Bob, I don't want you to antagonize some of these unions. They might be eating at your restaurant. Do you feel like like these people that are in support of the restaurant are gonna now boycott your restaurant, which I don't want them to do. I'm planning on going to eat there because I want to show support to people that support us and support the taxpayers. Are you worried?
Well, they're taxpayers too.
Well, yeah, like
Yeah.
Arturo says, taxpayers too. I'm a little worried, uh, but it's that particular blogger who is now banned for life from Oceaneria Mocambo and Captain Bob. He got banned yesterday morning. I announced it on my show. Come on!
You had a show on a Sunday? I missed it.
Well, no, I did a post.
Okay.
Speaking of PACs, there is this PAC promoting the bond. They've been sending out mail outs, and they've been encouraging. What was the language, Roman, that we need to take control of the bond or take control of BISD? Do you find it surprising that, in my opinion, I think that vendors are spending thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on this promotion of this bond? Is that alarming to y'all?
Well, that's the usual practice. That's the usual practice. The people that have an interest on the bond are gonna invest in the passage of this bond. So that's not alarming. But at the end of the day, the community, the voters, we are given the opportunity to vote on this bond. So it's our chance to show them who's on top of the organizational chart once again.
Now,
Roman,
I
no, go
gave
ahead, Bob.
Dr.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I gave Dr. Chavez a couple of ideas when he came to my show, and I said, well, the one about the contractors, have them finance the repairs, and have the AC people finance the ACs with no interest. That was one. The other one is we have about 4 schools that are closed, probably worth millions and millions and millions of dollars in value of the property and maybe the buildings. So what I told him is just start dismantling, pull out the air conditioning units, stick them in the warehouses, pull out all the kitchen equipment from the cafeteria, pull out, and just leave a shell of the building. And if you can't sell it, demolish the building, because in the land, you have land value. Start working on that. Don't just sit there for the next 20 years and those 4 schools are just there and the equipment's decaying. Save it. You'll get parts, air conditioning units for other schools. There's nothing wrong with a used air conditioner, and stick it up on the roof and crank it on. They have the technicians. That was just some of my ideas.
What did the superintendent say to those ideas, though? What was his response?
He got quiet and looked at me in my eyes, and about 4 seconds passed, and he said, "Thank you." And then he said on CBS that if anybody wants to buy those schools, by all means, look for him at the BISD administration building, and they'll sell the school to whoever. Now, there's heavy investors coming in from Mexico with millions and millions of dollars. Somebody could come in and buy, I don't know, the school, and they can, there's a housing, they say, shortage in Brownsville. There's apartments and duplexes and houses and subdivisions continue going up. Well, maybe BISD needs to demolish a school and build some apartments and start renting out and get in the apartment business. Just some ideas. They got to think outside of the box.
Mm.
You had the soup. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, another thing that the superintendent talked about was that Brownsville's enrollment was shrinking because of the fact that people in Brownsville were having less children. That's why our BISD enrollment was going down. So I don't understand why our population in Brownsville is growing. And and our enrollment is shrinking. He justified it with less children in Brownsville. So why is Los Fresnos enrollment growing? Why is Port Isabel's enrollment growing? Why is Ideas enrollment growing? Uh, some stuff like this, you gotta dissect what these people say, and somehow they're just, I don't know. Sometimes I believe these people are not working for the people; they're working for the people that are issuing the bond, and all those people that bond is going to benefit. Obviously, the contractors and the financial institutions.
Mhm.
Um, we have to break that system, and it's our opportunity right now. The system, the democratic system in the ISDs in the state is giving us the opportunity for us to vote yes or no on the bond.
Mm. Do you think that there's some sort of hypocrisy when you have the school board president, who is a product of not BISD, a product of St. Joe, and a product of Southern Methodist University, when her children, don't even attend BISD because they were attacking you, Duty, for not being a product of BISD, and Bob, you went to St. Joe. We all know you went to St. Joe. You think there's a real big sense of hypocrisy that the one person that seems to be promoting the bond on behalf of the board doesn't even have her kids in BISD. And look, I'm not attacking the kids. It's every parent's choice to decide where they want put their child in school, as it is mine. And if Frankie, you had kids, you'd be your choice too. And your choice, Bob, to put your child in Jubilee. But the board president, the one that is the face of this bond, next to the superintendent, chooses not BISD for her kids. What do you think?
Well, that's what dragged me into this debate, because I wasn't even caring about this BISD bond because I was living. I had a house in Alton Gloria, past Alton Gloria, so my taxing entity was Los Federals ISD.
Mhm.
But then I changed I noticed that I believe on during the summer, right after the municipal elections, I changed it to Portofino, and BISD comes out on my tax bill. So now I can vote. I can vote
Mm.
for the bond, yes or no. Uh, but going back to your question about, well, they dragged me into this because supposedly I didn't have I was childless, and I was a product of St. Joseph Academy. Well, yes, I am childless, but I still pay my property taxes, and if I pay them late, I get fees. So it's complicated to be up to date on those property taxes. And secondly, well, back in the day, well, I didn't have a choice of where to go to school. It wasn't my choice. They obviously I had to keep up my grades to stay in St. Joe, or else I would have been kicked out. But basically, my parents chose to they made that decision for me back in the day, being in those private schools, those Catholic schools. Um, but that was my parents' choice. In this
Mhm.
case, it's her choice. It's her choice to have her kids in whatever school. I don't know what school they are in, but it's her choice. It's her choice, and it is a little bit um, concerning or confusing. If she's the BISD president, why is she not picking or choosing having her kids or her kids basically in the product they are offering?
Do you think because these teacher unions that are promoting this bond massively, is it because she herself doesn't trust those same teacher unions and those educators to teach her children? Is that why she doesn't have them? I'm very upset about it because it's my choice. I have two kids. One of them went to public and the other one's going to private, and eventually they'll go to public school because I think the public school system in high schools is a little bit better and different. But that's my choice to do that. But she's representing everybody, and she doesn't trust those. At least that's what I think. That's the message that I'm picking up, that she doesn't trust those teacher unions or teachers to teach her own kids.
Well, that's, your opinion is valid. The In my situation, when I was married to my first wife, we started sending the kids to St. Mary's and St. Joe. I probably spent $150,000 from elementary all the way to graduation at St. Joe's for one of them. Then, unfortunately, we got divorced, and the money got funneled away from my pockets. So the kids, the next three, went to public school. I am very grateful that we didn't have to pay the $1,000 a month that St. Joe and St. Mary's invoice the parents. So I am grateful for that part. Three of them graduated from BISD, either veterans or PACE. And there's one left that's a junior. I believe she's in PACE. So, I mean, that saved me close to $500,000 if I would have kept paying at the St. Joseph Academy and St. Mary's. So I am grateful for BISD being there for the children. And like everybody knows, I got Stella at Jubilee, and it doesn't cost me any money per month, and she's moving right along.
Well, in my case, I'm childless, so I don't have a
Yeah.
opinion
And
of where to send my kids. But I do see it with my nephews, my brother and my sisters-in-laws. They put a lot of effort on researching on the quality of the schools and where to send them. They go back and forth. They go visit the schools. They talk to other parents. It's a choice. It's the parents' choice of where to take your children to school. I remember I experienced that they were back and forth, and then I was surprised that they picked one of my sister-in-law and my brother picked a school in San Benito. And then I started inquiring, well, what's up with that school? They bus them every day over there from out of a St. Mary's parking lot. I think 3 or 4 buses take off from there to San Benito, because they researched and that was the best school. That was the best school, and they chose. And I believe it's managed by South Texas ISD.
yeah.
Are y'all talk to a lot of people in your everyday lives because of your business and because of who y'all are. Is the community aware of what's on the table for these next 2 years, the next few weeks? And I ask that because there is this reality that people's taxes might go up. What do you hear from the community? Are they aware of this possibility? Are they aware that in 5 years, according to the data that BISD themselves has given, that in 5 years there is this possibility that taxes will double? Is the community aware of this possibility?
Well, we go back to the topic where the governor is trying to lower our taxes, and this bond is gonna resist from that to happen. They're gonna increase. Obviously, they're gonna increase, but if the bond wouldn't pass, we would get a significant discount on our property taxes due to the fact that the governor is giving a huge incentive on our homesteads. But since BISD is tagging a huge bond in this, or trying to pass this bond, that will not happen if they succeed.
Well, we already have that discount right now. If you already got your bill, if you got your bill right now,
the discount is due to the governor's incentive of the homestead. Let's not confuse who's giving us the discount. It is not.
No, I agree with that. That's why I wanted to bring. I don't know if you're able to see what Frankie is posting on there. He's posting the data from BISD, and there's this big white little thing that's there that's being blocked out, and that is last year's tax rate. That was what was paid last October if you had a mortgage. It was last year. And so, but the school district is pointing out, no, we're going to worry about last year so that it can make it seem that in 5 years that it is actually, it's not really an increase, it's a decrease from the taxes you're paying even from last year, but they're making it seem like it's this year. They're tricking people. I believe that on purpose tricking people by saying that it's 2025, but in actuality, your tax rate is significantly lower than last year this year. And what do you think? What do you feel is the motive for these people to mislead the voters?
Maybe that's the urgency. They wanna capture this moment so they could play with those numbers and tell you, well, we're not increasing the taxes because we're actually keeping them the same instead of us benefiting from that discount. They're taking it right up to where it was
Yeah.
because of this bond.
Yeah. No, Bob, what are your thoughts? I mean, do you do that whenever with your restaurant? Is that how you do business? How either of you do business and misleading, the banker, the people that you take loans from? Do you trick them? That would be the voters in my estimation.
Well, the ones that lend me money,
Know
no,
your clients. You trick your clients.
I don't trick the clients.
You tell them, okay, I'm going to give you 30% off, but
Yeah.
you put it on the menu. You inflate your prices. So it's
No, I don't trick
That's
them.
unethical.
I don't trick them. I do all you can eat shrimp and fish on Tuesday. And some of those folks come in here and eat 30, 40 shrimp. That's not tricking. That's helping the community out.
I actually have a reverse inflation promotion in my businesses. I give them the best discount I can have because I'm competing, just like VISD is competing with IDEA, with Harmony, and all those schools. Well, I'm competing with a lot of stores around me, so I have to be very blunt and give them the best price I can and the best service.
Yeah. I met on Friday. We had State Senator Mays Middleton in town visiting Brownsville, visiting the Valley. He's running for Texas Attorney General right now, and he actually put a bill in the state Senate this session, where if you wanted to do a bond, you would not just do the principal, because that's what this bond is. The $460 million is the principal, and that's what you're going to see on the ballot. What he had proposed was not just doing the principal, but doing the entirety of the bond, which was the principal and the interest. So in this case, we would have seen the $1 billion price tag on your ballot. But he said to me that that bill passed the Senate, but it died in the Texas House, and he faulted these taxpayer-funded lobbyists like the Texas Association of School Boards and other entities that made sure that bill did not pass. Do you think that it's fair that our taxpayer-funded lobbyists were out there not supporting this idea of saying we're going to give you the whole enchilada, we're going to do the whole truth, which is not just 460 million, but the tag on the interest, so that you, the voter, could be able to decide? Do you think that's one, fair? And two, do you think that the school district is hiding the full truth of the cost of this bond from the voters by focusing in on only the $460 million and not the entirety of the $1 billion, or approximately $1 billion, as Frankie has been saying?
I think it's fair that they should have put on the ballot the close to $1 billion, including the interest. I think BISD is just following that state law that didn't pass through the representatives.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's interesting is I'd like to see the representatives locally, how they voted on that for it not to pass. Because then they're not watching out for the taxpayer. Now, if they voted to include the interest, well, then they're off the hook. But if they voted getting overwhelmed by the tax lobbyists, then the voter needs to scratch his head and go, what are we going to do next election with those representatives?
I mean, you do have your state representative, Erin Gomez, who was at the event at the State of the District. I'm assuming she's promoting this particular bond and massively in support of it. Do you think that, she probably was against this particular bill? Now, I don't think it even got a vote on the floor in the House. I think it died in committee, and the taxpayer funded lobbyists, all of them, were not in favor of this particular bill. Now that you live in the district, what do you think, Duty? Do you think that our state representative Aaron Gomez was in support of this idea of being truthful and telling everybody the full amount of this bond?
Um, I haven't followed Aaron Gomez's uh, platform lately. I haven't kept up with her activities lately. Uh, the other time it popped up, but she was campaigning for someone. So basically, she was talking about partisan things, and at the end of the day, I, I'm fed up with all this Democrat Republican rhetoric. They're fighting back and forth, and it's all about them, their parties, and their affiliations. At the end of the day, the citizens like us, the normal people, the people on the that I see every day, well, they want more disposable money in their pockets. And how you give them more money in their pockets? By by them having lower taxes, lower insurance rates, lower bills at the end of the day within their their lifestyle. That way, they can have a little bit of more money they can enjoy for their children, for their personal activities, and their families. That should be our goal. How to save money and keep Brownsville affordable.
I would agree with you that politicians are thinking for themselves, but being that I'm a Republican, I want to say that the Republican Party, through our governor, through our state senate, through some of the people on this Texas State House who happen to be Republicans, they did vote in order to give us this option for a higher homestead. We have to vote on it in November as well. They're lowering our taxes. They're interested in putting, that disposable income, but it's not the local Democrats, because this school board is run by a bunch of Democrats. Don't think that for a second that there's a single Republican on that board right now. I mean, maybe there's one, but they're all liberal Democrats. They all talk like Democrats. They act like Democrats. They tax us like Democrats. It's really the Democratic Party that seems to be in lockstep with this particular bond, just like they were in favor of that arena. It was every single one of those Democrats that was on the Cameron County Commissioners Court that wanted this particular bond. You don't agree with me on that, or you still want to say it's both parties?
Well, I'm not following the partisan races, and I don't. Well, at the end of the day, maybe you need more Republicans down in this area, because your voice resonates with me, and I like what you're saying.
Yeah. And in fact, I told Frankie that, you're the kind of person that I want to see run for office as a Republican. We have some spots open, countywide. There's the Cameron County treasurer that I'm looking for right now. And I think you fit the bill for that spot, running as a Republican. And I think we can win that race with somebody like you in office and running as a candidate, running as a Republican against David Betancourt, because I think, David Betancourt, although I like the man, I think he's a little stale. So I'd like to see you consider running for that.
I agree with you, because I was the one that started the crusade for Arturo Trevino to run for mayor. And then he came to explain it to me on a show that he feels he has more power on the top of the organizational chart, where the citizens are in charge. Okay? The mayor and the commissioners are the servants. He made a lot of sense, and he seems to do a lot of influencing from behind the curtain. He does a very good job.
No. I was dragged into this one. Remember?
He was
Hey, well, I'm dragging you into this particular thing. And look, the reason I'm bringing this up, I know this, we're talking about the bond, but you're obviously knowledgeable about bonds and money and things like that. And what do you think the treasurer does at the county? I'll be honest, the county treasurer position doesn't do much. They do two things, and correct me if I'm wrong, Frank, you used to be a county employee. They do two things. One, they sign the checks that they have no control over what the amount of the check is. They just sign the checks. And secondly, they present a report from the auditor. It's not even their report. It's the report of the auditor, and they don't really have a choice. Oh, they just signed off on it. And then you pay him tens of thousands of dollars a year for that honor. But, as a county treasurer, you would have a voice. You would have that actual voice to say, hey, I want to eliminate that particular office. I don't like that office. I think that office shouldn't be in existence. But at this also, you'd be able to have that voice countywide to talk about money. And right now we're talking about money that these board members are trying to take away from the citizens of Brownsville with what I believe is a lie, with the lie that it's not going to be a tax increase. It is going to be a tax increase. You have, this is not the first time that you have school board members out there lying to the voters and saying that it's not a tax increase like they did with the VAT 2 years ago. And the same people that were saying it's not a tax increase are the ones saying the same thing now. And I don't appreciate being gaslit by these politicians, whether they're nonpartisan or not. These people are very partisan. So that's why I'd like to see somebody like you, a businessman running for these kinds of offices to give the voters a choice, because at the end of the day, we don't have a choice.
Suerte says every single individual that is running Brownsville into the ground and has misused / stolen city funds, county funds, etc., are Democrats. Do you guys think that BISD is not reading the room right? Again, we are not far removed from corruption at the district with Sylvia Atkinson. There is the ESSER funds that Ms. Bautista talks about. What has the district done with $400 million? And now the district wants to put on another burden on the taxpayers with this bond. Do you think that there's mistrust, or that the board isn't reading the room right within the community?
Of course, there's a mistrust, and it all starts with the enrollment. If the parents would trust BISD, that our enrollment in BISD would be increasing. So there's mistrust all over the place. There's a lot of money going around. There's a lot of good teachers in BISD, but somehow I think a lot of the good people in BISD are being silenced.
I got to give it to the BISD for selling Cummings to the zoo in the city of Brownsville so that the zoo can increase its land. So I'm happy about that they did that. And we were pounding and pounding on that subject months before it. But of course, it was on the plan months before I even arrived on the social media scene.
That deal with the zoo and the CTE. Well, I was doing some research during the week. I noticed that CTE, they had a previous location on Polk Avenue, no, Polk Street, downtown. I don't know why the reasoning behind changing that CTE over here to Cummings. Maybe it was to create leverage on the negotiation with the city. You see, there's all kinds of stuff that comes to mind that creates mistrust with the people. Why didn't they keep the CTE over there and have Cummings abandoned? That way. But somehow they created, okay, let's bring it over here. That way, Cummings is not abandoned. That way, we create a better negotiation with the city. At the end of the day, these people are paying with our tax dollars. The city's tax dollars are the citizens. The BISD tax dollars are the citizens as well. So we're screwing ourselves. Instead of collaborating, we're screwing ourselves. It's the same tax dollars from the citizens. That's what they're doing for me.
You're robbing Peter to pay Paul, is what you're essentially alluding to. I mean, the BISD, they invested millions of dollars. I want to say millions plural, at the very least $1 million into the CTE program that they just willy nilly just sold to the city. To the city, you had the mayor of Brownsville at the state of the district allude to the fact that because of the Cummings sell, the zoo was now able to have this zip line. And I was startled by that because I didn't feel like the zip line was coming from Cummings over, because Cummings, we still have students at Cummings, CTE students there. That the zip line is the zip line coming from Cummings all the way to the zoo, or is this just something that the mayor's
The sell
wrong
of
about?
the sell of Cummins had nothing to do with the zip line. The zip line was already uh, projected, and it's inside the existing territory of the zoo, which is owned by the city at the end of the day. But and that those monies came partially from a grant called ARPA, the American Rescue Plan, from COVID, partially from there, and which the city appropriated and found an interesting project in the zoo zip line to use it with, along with monies from the Gladys Porter Foundation.
Mm, mm.
I know y'all aren't realtors, just as common laymen. Do you think $16 million for Cummings was a fair market value, in your opinion?
Well, 10 acres, I believe it was about 10 acres. What do you want to? 10 acres at $400,000, $450,000. Let's do the math. It's about 5 million, $4.5 million. That would have been a fair market price for someone that's in the development business. But once again, I go back to the CTE. Why was the CTE shut down in Polk Street? Was it because I went to that building, and the building seemed to have a functional um, structure and everything. Why did they change it from over there to Cummings? That's my question. They spent money. You see, they spend money to screw the same taxpayers. That's what I'm in disagreement.
Now, I don't want to change the subject, but I think there's not proper uh, inspections, overseeing contractors. They just give the contractor, here's your job. Go to town, and nobody from the entities overseeing that. For example, the cannery next to the zoo. If you drive by there, I think they fired the contractor, and he took $4.3 million to renovate that cannery, and they just did the outside. The inside didn't do any work. And if you see the little building next to it, the roof is already peeling off, and you got some big nails. They just hammered it, some vinyl roofing material. Pass by there, it's already peeling off, and there's no workers there. So that's the city, but they didn't oversee that. The same company that was hired from the city of Brownsville was supposed to do some sort of park and retaining walls on Resaca Boulevard. That project started in 2018. We're now 2025, 7 years later. Not one thing has happened there. Tires are thrown in there. Weeds are as high as my chest. We did a show there. So that was that same contractor. The city's not overseeing those projects. So that's a concern. So, the leadership of the entities need to get more involved.
I don't know. I don't know if he has the capacity to oversee $460 million in construction. I don't know.
I mean,
Let's go back to the drawing board and maybe give him less. There's a quote in the Bible that says from Lucas 16:10 that says, if we can't trust you with the little things, how can we trust you with the bigger things?
mm,
That's a
yeah.
quote that came to mind when I went to church and read over it, and I said, wow, how
Mm.
how 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 timing of that quote coming up in church.
I'm astounded. I think you're hitting you're getting there with how much these contractors are going to be able to do, because you had the like Golden Girl, she, when they were talking about the insurance, she set the line that the school district is in the business of educating, not in the business of insurance. And right now you're alluding to the point, I don't think the school district is in the business of building and fixing things, because if we don't do that well in the city, that building roads and highways and buildings and inspecting all these things, because I mean, if you're going to build a house, the city's always, supposedly they're going in there and checking those buildings, and they're checking and making sure that you're doing the house right, so that when somebody buys that house later on the market, it's going to be done right. Do you think the school district is definitely not in the business of building things and inspecting things? Is that what would I be right on that, or am I wrong?
Yeah, basically that's a concern. Yes, um, throwing $460 million at the BISD uh, might be a little bit of irresponsible. Maybe let's start with a smaller bond.
Mm.
Okay, let's concentrate on the HVACs. Okay, let's do that. Let's sell the schools. Let's do. There's a lot of things in the BISD plate in order for them to jump into a huge bond like this. This would be the
Mm.
largest bond in the history of BISD, or maybe in the city.
In the Rio Grande Valley.
No,
Now,
I mean, Captain.
let's say the bonds pass. Why can't they put a stipulation that all the contractors are hired from Brownsville? That way the money stays in Brownsville. Because you're going to have contractors coming in from McAllen, Houston, San Antonio, wanting a piece of that pie. So I told the superintendent that too. And it is what it is. They should have put that in. They messed up, because that would have promoted the voters to say, hey, the money's going to stay here. The contractors are going to get it from Brownsville. The air conditioned guys from Brownsville are going to get it.
That's economic development there.
There it is. For the city of Brownsville, strictly for us.
Suerte says BISD enrollment will never increase with the city of Brownsville had people opening schools with idea public school had employees. How can their number increase this way? It's like they're purposely trying to drown BISD at the cost of the city of Brownsville taxpayer. Do you believe, again, we have shown previously how BISD enrollment for the past 10 years is slowly declining. Do you honestly believe that if this bond passes, their enrollment's going to increase dramatically?
Well, I was doing some researching about precisely the decrease in certain ISDs. Right now, Austin has a similar problem to the Brownsville ISD. But what Austin is doing is merging with other independent school districts to be more efficient and clog that enrollment problem. So basically, maybe we should be looking into merging with Los Fredos ISD, maybe merging with Port Isabel ISD. We gotta think outside the box, because how things are going right now, I don't see a future for it. We gotta come up with different proposals, merge with these other neighboring ISDs. That way, we're not competing for enrollment, and we come out stronger. Port Isabel is giving back money to the state through the Robin Hood plan. Why not merge with them and keep that money? I think they're giving back $20 million every year. So let's think outside the box. There's a lot of. Let's do some research. Let's not rush into this bond. Let's go back to the drawing board, come up with a better proposal, and help out BISD's future.
Mm. Thanks, Josh, for saying that. So what are they saying? They didn't mess up. They had people from the outside of the city they were working with. Ooh, wow. That's interesting, Suerte. And Austin, Suerte is also saying Austin is so corrupt, though, can't really depend on the way they do things. I think it's interesting that they are thinking outside the box, and the difference between Austin and here is that we not only have IDEA and Jubilee and all the private schools and BIC, we also have that other school district that you and I pay taxes to, South Texas ISD. You know, that is annoying. There's no business, no reason for us in Brownsville or in Raymondville or in McAllen to all be paying into not only their local school district, but another so-called local school district in South Texas ISD. They're gouging the taxpayers left and right. Is there something that we need to do to make it happen? Do we need our state representatives and our state senators going up to Austin and making sure we get rid of that thing? Because we have no business having two school districts paying taxpayers paying taxes to. No.
Yeah, we agree with you. We agree with you.
Turi, the last time I have here, people are people are asking me. I'll get to what I was going to get to in a bit. Employees from UTRGV are promoting the bonds. Ruben Obel, Political Alliances for UTRGV, is pushing it. Instead of UTRGV pushing to raise our property taxes, why don't they share their facilities to BISD, the Cultural Arts Center, and save customers money? Just something somebody wanted to input. Turi, the last time we had Captain Bob here, he was on the hot seat, so to speak. With him, we started rapid fire. If you aren't aware, Turi, I'm going to ask you some simple questions. It's a yes or no. If you don't feel comfortable, say pass. Got it?
Got it.
Órale. Arturo Trevino will run for politics in the near future. Yes or no?
Pass.
The citizens of Brownsville will approve the BISD bond of $460 million.
No.
Steve Guerra could beat Eddie Trevino in a county judge race.
Yes.
Steve Guerra will run as a Democrat if he were to challenge Eddie Trevino.
Pass.
Ooh.
Vicente Gonzalez will be the congressman next November.
Well, yes. He's not going to resign early. What kind of question? Wow. Well, do you know something we don't know, Frankie?
No, there's a lot of round tables going around town. There's a lot. It's people are talking. People are getting their ducks in a row. But I have no information of whether Steve is running Democrat or Republican. I do not know. Steve Guerra. And as far as what I've heard, the numbers say that whoever's going to be the Republican candidate for Congress in our area has an advantage of 9 points. That's what it said over there. But things can change. You know, there could be mistakes within the campaigns. You know, there could be debates. Someone saying something wrong. Things can change. Politics is changing every day. Changing every day.
Yes or no? We want a yes or no on that question.
Or pass.
Vicente Mayra? Well, we don't know if Mayra's the candidate yet.
Well, the question was, will Vicente be our congressman after next November? Yes, no, pass.
I'm gonna pass on that one because I don't.
Last question. Joey Lopez will not win next November. Yes or no? Will Joey Lopez win his election? Yes or no? For county commissioner. Yes, no, or pass.
This could be the most complicated. What's your game called?
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire. You're in the hot seat.
The C-suite. I gotta go with this.
Those are good questions.
Very good questions. Because I don't know if they're gonna link his daughter to his election. So
Ooh,
maybe the fate of her daughter will be the fate of her dad. That's
wow.
that's my answer.
Mm.
Interesting point, ladies and gentlemen. Arturo Trevino, rapid fire. Gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Any last words for the community?
Well, we want to emphasize that the system, the political system or the democratic system here has given us the right to vote on this next bond. So it's up to us, the citizens, to say yes or no on the bond. You know what we think, but at the end of the day, it's the people's choice.
Captain?
Well, I want to thank Frankie and Roman for inviting us. I think it was a great show. I'm going to share it to my page. And it's been an honor and a privilege to hang out with the three of you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The invitation will always be on the table. If you guys ever want to come on, if you want to work on something, if you have ideas, we're here. We're here for it. Ladies and gentlemen, Los Trevi Drive-Thru, Mocambo, and Captain Bob's Restaurant. Make sure you stop by, show them love. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. Let's do this soon.
Mm. Bye, guys. Uh,
Interesting. That was very interesting, Roman.
a lot of interesting things that were said. A lot of interesting questions. I loved your questions, Frankie. Your rapid fire questions, and it's interesting.
Yeah, and what I found fascinating was because people always criticize, someone like me or someone like Roman. They're like, "Oh, y'all are negative," but whenever they hear it from other individuals, entrepreneurs, business owners, we have a stake. I'll speak for myself. They obviously have a bigger stake. In regards to their businesses, they will be heavily affected by this. So I think it's important for the community to listen to somebody like them. Somebody that is a business owner that knows the struggle. This isn't beneficial to the citizens of Brownsville. That's what I wanted the community to grasp.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of problems with this bond. I'm glad we had them on. Hopefully, they can come back again, maybe later this week or next week to talk more about the bond. As obviously, Duty is doing a lot of research, you know, and I like the fact that people are doing research. I mean, you had the Golden Girl last week talk about how she was doing research nonstop, for days and days and days. But I think the research that Duty is doing is much better and more um, needed in our community, and hopefully people can listen to good people like Duty, and hopefully he does decide to run as a Republican for county treasurer. That's what I do, guys. That's what I do. I try to find good people and ask them to consider running as Republicans. So the invitation out there for all of you all out there that are listening, if you're interested in running as a Republican and you don't want to give the people a voice, reach out to Frankie and we'll get in talk. We'll get the ball rolling. We can get good people running, but we definitely need to vote no against this bond. And now I think now that they're gone, we can really talk about some of the things that are being said. I'm very upset. And you, the taxpayer, the voter, should be very upset at some of the mistreatment of voters being done in the name of taking control of BISD from the PACs, the BISD and administrators in the Glass Palace, the BISD trustees, the bloggers, the influencers, the unions, and all this concerted effort to make it seem as though this bond is not going to affect you, the taxpayers, you, the voters, you, the renters, you, the business owners, because this is not a tax increase. This is a tax decrease. If you really look at it, it's not. It is 100% a tax increase. There is no way these people can to lie to you. Do not let anybody lie to you and tell you that this is not a tax increase, that this is not a much bigger tax increase. It's not just gradual increase. It's an increase. Their own wording. Frankie, if you can put that post back up, that graph, it literally says it will gradually increase. So why do we have people out there gaslighting us and saying, no, it's not a tax increase. It is a tax increase. And it's very important that we realize it is, because until we say no and stand up for ourselves and tell them, do not gaslight me, do not lie to me, do not tell me any other thing. Look what it says there in the very, very bottom, the fine print. If the bond passes, school taxes will gradually increase over the next 5 years. It literally says that. And yet you had one of the unions out there bashing poor Nelda Rocha and saying that they're just providing facts. They're just providing facts and information about it, that, it's not a tax increase. The wording right there says a tax increase. The graph itself says it's a tax increase. And it pains me. It upsets me, because if, just like Duri said, if they're willing, if you can't trust them on the little things, how can you trust them on the big things? If we can't trust you unions out there to tell us the truth about this and not gaslight us, how can we trust you, one, with our bond money, one, with our taxes, and two, to teach our children? How can we trust you, unions out there, promoting this fallacy that this is not a tax increase? I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. It's disgusting. And they need to be, and at some point, how can we, the voters, hold them accountable? And the way we hold them accountable is by voting no. That is really the only way we can do it.
Yeah. From here till November the 4th, that's what I want to do. I want to dedicate 3-4 days out of the bond, because ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, this is the most pressing issue right now. From here till, 2-3 weeks away from election day, we need to hammer the message across, and that's something that many people have been asking of me. Hey, maybe you should do your programs in Spanish for 15, 20, 30 minutes, just to give the habla hispana people an opportunity to hear the message. Because is the literature, Roman, is this literature? My grandfather showed me. He received campaign literature for the bond. Is this information being disseminated in Spanish? I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. Maybe it has, but maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to start posting in English and Spanish in regards to this bond, because this is very important. This graph here that BISD is providing, this is an illustration of the possibilities. In 5 years, in 2031, the property taxes will increase. Are people aware of that? So it's very important that we should drive this message home. Also, another thing, I forgot to talk about this in depth in regards to take control of BISD. Say, vote yes. So what? Are they saying that BISD has no control? That the BISD board members, Roman, don't know what the heck they're doing? That they're relying on the voters to take back control? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I think their argument is, well, the state has control of BISD. Let's take it control locally, and we have a say into what happens. And it's like bull. That's not what, you have no control. The crazies run the asylum, at this point. That's what I think that they're really saying by saying take control of BISD. We don't want you right now. I don't want you controlling BISD. You're gaslighting us. You're telling us this is not a tax increase. You're telling us that you desperately need this. I mean, I wish when we have Duri and Captain Bob back on, I want to ask them, do you think it's appropriate that we have a school board member in Frank Ortiz, Blackie Locks, out there voting against? He voted against the bond of $300 million not too long ago, 5 months ago, 6 months ago. And now he wants a $460 million bond. He's totally okay with it. That's crazy talk. That's crazy and nuts. And I don't want people to think, oh, we're just repeating ourselves. We have people in the Glass Palace. I know who you are. People on the board and whatnot that say, oh, don't listen to Roman and Frankie. Don't listen to Frankie and Roman. They're just repeating themselves. They're just saying the same thing over and over and over again. Well, we're going to continue to say things that need to be said, because you all are misleading the public. Because at the base level, you all are misleading the public. You are going out there with this information, these brochures, and Frankie, I think they are in Spanish. Some things are in Spanish because if you go to the BISD website, the election website, they have flyers, flyers in Spanish and in English that you can see for yourself. And it's very troubling that they're misleading voters the way they are. And I just can't trust you all anymore. I cannot trust you. I don't even know why anybody at this point has their child at BISD. The way that the school district, in the name of informing people, because they are allowed to inform under the bond, they are allowed to inform that they're not supposed to say yes, vote no. They can't do that, but they can inform. But the way that they're informing is just wrong. It's just absolutely wrong. That chart, that bar graph is just an absolute insanity thing. By having that one thing on the left hand side be so high when that was last year's tax rate. And I say this again, they did this so that you could think at the end of the day, that graph on the very side, it's lower, it's shorter than last year's. But they're going to trick you into thinking, well, it says 2025, Roman, that's this year. Like, no, that's last year. That was the tax rate that they imposed last year onto the voters starting October 1st. And they wanted you to do that. They want you to believe that. They want every voter, whether you speak English or Spanish, to see that bar graph and say, yeah, it's not that high. It's not that. It's smaller in 5 years. Look at all the money that they're saving. Look, the school district is really helping us out. They're so sweet and wonderful that they have our taxes so low this year, and it's just a little bit. That's what they want you to believe. That's what they want you to see. And it's ridiculous because at the end of the day, you're going to be paying $1 billion, a little bit less than $1 billion on this bond.
They are telling the community that taxes will decrease and that every year they do an audit. Both points are a lie. This is the only way they see the line to line their pockets by kickbacks from contractors. Our taxes would even decrease further now that the previous bond is finally paid. Taxes are already at an all-time high. Tell your friends and family to vote no. What do you think, Roman? What do you think the sentiment is out there? Do you think this bond has a chance?
I think it has a chance so long as people are believing the BS coming from school board members. I mean, when you have the school board president, the superintendent going on people's TikToks and telling people vote yes, essentially, and informing the public, and making it seem like this is a good thing, that people are going to be gullible enough. And I've said this already before. They had no problems 2 years ago gaslighting you and telling you it wasn't a tax increase. Maybe because last year it wasn't as big. It wasn't $460 million. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe the people will see that $460 million. How the hell are we going to pay for that? I'm really hoping that people will read that and realize, maybe I shouldn't. Or maybe I'm also hoping that there are some of these politicos that are publicly saying, vote yes for this bond. But at the end of the day, they're telling everyone, no, don't vote that way. I'm not going to vote that way. Híjole, that's too much money. I'm hoping maybe that'll happen. But I think we had the school district, the city commission last week. I think they voted in some sort of capacity to vote in favor of supporting this bond. I thought I saw somewhere something. Maybe we need to look at the agenda to see if that was even on the agenda for last week. I really hope they didn't, because if they did, because remember, the school board, the city commission in March put out a resolution in support of that arena that was also going to be a tax increase. Did they not learn the lesson, and did they do it again? Should we be holding these people accountable? I mean, I don't know. I hope they didn't, but maybe we need to look at their minutes, or at least their agenda, because the minutes won't be out yet.
Yeah, I find it mind-boggling how these people. I hate to use this, that because I shouldn't say it, but what the heck. We have this perception, Roman, of politics here in the Rio Grande Valley, in particular Brownsville, that everyone's on the take. If you ask 10 people, I would dare say 8, 9 of them will say, oh yeah, they're all corrupt. Why? Because of things that we've heard, things that we've seen, things that has transpired as of late. And now they think that every politician that runs doesn't run because they genuinely want the better quality of life, that they have an agenda, so to speak. Um, it's hard for me to think that the city commission, that they would encourage the voters to vote yes, knowing that this is a tax increase. We go back to the city. If it wasn't for Golansky and De Leon, maybe the city of Brownsville would have increased our property tax rate for the citizens of Brownsville. Little things like that, it's kind of makes me stop and think, well, to the average person, it's going to affect us greatly. Maybe they have the resources. Maybe to the educated people who do have the means, to them it's just another. Just got to pay a little bit more. But I find it hard to believe that these individuals would openly state that, knowing what's at risk, knowing that we live in a time where inflation is through the roof. People can't afford their where they live. They can't afford their mortgage. They can't afford their rent. Food's expensive. Our life in general is expensive. So I find it hard to believe that these individuals would, knowing what we're going through, knowing that everything's expensive, life is expensive, they still would encourage people to vote yes. To me, it's mind-boggling.
Well, I mean, I think it's because you have school board members that are required to go to these TASB meetings, to get you have to have continuing education to stay on the board, because if you don't have continuing education, and you're going to be removed from the board. So you go to these trainings, these classes or whatever, and you go there, it's like, hey, you want to meet our finance people? Like, look at our finance people, they can help you do a bond. And you go, it's like one-stop shop. They send you to the bond. It feels to me, the way it was described to me, that it's kind of like when you do a timeshare. Like, hey, we all these things you can do, learn this and wonderful things, and look at all the amenities we have. So you get your contractors, your architects, you have all these people. These are the people that we work. The TASB, I believe, they run the buyback, the buy board, where you can go out there and get all the vendors, and they, their thing. And then we, the taxpayers, we pay for this stuff. We pay to have our school board be members of this organization, and then they go out and they promote their whatever they want. They go and lobby Austin for what they want, and it's very very troubling. That I think happens. So we have to stand up. And I think we have board members that just pay attention to this stuff. They just pay attention. They'll believe every gullible thing that they tell them. Oh, wow, really? That's how it goes, and then they believe it and they go along with it. That's what I think is happening right now. We have people that are being misled by outsiders, the experts, and leading us astray. And I hope that people will not vote in favor of this bond, this massive tax increase. You mentioned the city a little bit earlier about not trusting people, and it reminded me about this tax rate, and I hope people will follow me along on this. The city's tax rate is approximately 60 cents per 100, right? That is approximately what the tax rate is. What the school district wants to do is, right now, the tax rate that gives us that $380 average thing for not the full tax rate. Not the M&O, the maintenance operation, but the interest and sinking fund, which is what the bond is about. Right now is at 4 cents. And these guys with the $460 million bond want to jump it up to 28 cents. That's a 24-cent increase in terms of the interest and sinking portion of the tax. That's approximately 24 cents, maybe even 25 cents. If you round it up, that's almost half the amount of taxes that the citizens of Brownsville are paying, that will be paying by BISD people, by BISD voters and BISD renters and BISD property owners and BISD business owners. That's insane. That approximately half of the city's tax rate is not going to go for this bond. And this isn't going to be just right now. This is going to be for the next 30 years. That's insane. That's crazy. And in a world where you have more people coming in, supposedly more businesses, more attractions, the growth of the city, the growth of the valley. Some people think that in the next 30 years you're going to see double the amount of people living in the valley, and yet you're gonna hamstrung, tie down your taxes to approximately half the tax rate of the city of Brownsville just on this bond alone for 30 years is insane. It's ridiculous. And that's why you have to vote no.
I found it interesting how Captain Bob used his own family, used his baby girl. He mentioned that she was 4 or 5 years old, that she wouldn't see the end of this bond until she was in her mid 30s. Don't we have a responsibility to the future generations of, yes, we want to make their, give them everything and give them more, but we also have to be responsible. Is the future generations that the city right now doesn't have much promise. We're not hiring at a rapid pace. Whenever our students graduate, they leave. I would say, a large percentage of the time, they don't come back. Yes, you have certain professions that are in demand, but for the most part, people don't come back to Brownsville. They go out to the bigger cities for bigger opportunities. I think that's also a message that I'm going to try this week to drive home. Is it irresponsible for us to leave the burden of 1-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds right now when this bond eventually is done, Roman? They're going to be in the middle of their lives. Would they be able to withstand, this additional tax, this additional expense? It's hard to believe. Also, in 30 years, are we going to get another bond, another tax? We're just going to be like, just go into debt, go into debt, go into debt, go into debt. It shouldn't be that way. I think we have a moral responsibility to the future generations to think about it. And I know people are going to counter my argument by saying, "Oh, well, this $460 million bond is going to give them better quality of schools, better facilities, a better education." But we have to do it responsibly. And this bond, how our guests mentioned, it seems as if everything in the kitchen sink is being thrown at us. And we're at the 11th hour, Roman, and you better make a decision. Hurry up, because if not, the future relies on it. Whoa. It shouldn't be that way. I hadn't, not that I hadn't thought about this, but, Arturo said there are possibly double-digit schools that are closed. Have we looked into possibly liquidating them? Trying to get, if you have, let's say, 8 to 10 schools at 16 million, let's give that price, because that was what they gave Cummings away. That's ballpark. That's over $100 million with 8 schools or possibly more. That's a good little start. That's a good little, little cushion to start on. And maybe with that, they could show us, hey, we're going to do this and we'll see how it goes. And then, look how great we did. Let's go out for a bond. Maybe in good faith, we can do that. But there's no thinking outside the box. I never thought of what Arturo said in regards to other school districts merging with others. Now, BISD would not ever do that. Never, never, never. Port Isabel being one of the richest school districts because of South Padre. They returned $20 million. We're always reactive. I can't think of a leader on that school board that thought ahead, that played chess. Unfortunately, it seems as if they're pressuring us. They're saying, we need this. If not, our district's going to fail. No, y'all caused it to fail. This is a bailout, Roman. There are no other words that I could explain this.
I'm glad that's an interesting language to be used by Turi, and I'm glad that he's used it, and I'm glad that we're going to start using that thing. It is a bailout. Suerte had said something about Golonsky. I don't know what you meant by Golonsky, Suerte, if you're still watching. I don't know what you meant by Golonsky is. I'm hoping that people will vote no. And early voting starts next week, if I'm not mistaken, on Monday. We're going to have a lot of people out there asking us questions, and hopefully you all will. I think it's important that if you're watching the show, that every time we talk about the bond, that you share it on your social media platforms. You share it on X, you share it on YouTube, or share it on Facebook. I think it's also important that you go out there and subscribe to Frankie's YouTube page, because although he hasn't been saying it lately, you never know when Facebook might decide to get mad and censor Frankie. I think, Frankie, you were telling me that after we did the show about the state of the district and we played it, and what was the first thing that Facebook did as soon as we stopped? They notified you and told you they were going to censor your video because of the fact that you had the playing of the Star Spangled Banner, which was copyrighted. That's what Facebook does. So if you want to make sure that Frankie's shows continue on, you need to be able to subscribe to YouTube so that he has that avenue, and go over there and share the feed on X so that we have an even larger platform. Because I think Frankie has a good show going on, and he's having exciting guests on. I'm not the exciting guest. It's people like Captain Bob and Duty that are on. And I'm glad that they accepted our invitation to come on, because I do think it's upsetting. It's upsetting to me that certain individuals in our community are out there promoting this bond and attacking people like Duty for supposedly not having children. Like that, what's wrong with you people? Why are you so upset at somebody who has an opinion because they don't have children? And yet that same person doesn't seem to have a problem with Daniela not having any kids at BISD. Yeah, she lives in BISD. Yeah, I'm sure she pays taxes at BISD because she wouldn't be a school board member if she lived outside of BISD. But she doesn't have her kids there. She doesn't have a stake in the, skin in the game. And you don't seem to have a problem with it. These bloggers, these influencers, it's annoying. And so I'm hoping that people will share Frankie's feed, share the stuff that he's posting, and help him grow his page so that we can reach the masses, especially over the next 3 weeks from now until election day. Well, it's in 3 weeks, right? Election day is in 3 weeks.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah.
Yeah, give or take. So again, from here till November 2nd, agent, we're gonna hit the bond hard. There's a lot of things that we've said. I will try and continue to reach out to community members who are either for or against it. If you want to, if you want to come on here and talk about why you think that that there is a need for our property taxes to increase at the sake of the school district, saving the school district, so to speak, reach out to me. Our platform is available to community members that have genuine concerns, and if they want to voice their opinion in regards to something that we're in opposition with, by all means, that's what this platform is for. Roman, any last words?
Jessica's as an interesting thing when they attack your characters because they have nothing. I would agree with you on that, Jess. I would. You're a realtor, and I am curious. Maybe tomorrow we'll talk about it, and maybe we need to do research on it. But how will a massive tax increase like this, where they're going to double your taxes between now, October 2025, and October 2030, they will double your taxes at BISD. What will that do to the market, the housing market? What will that do to people paying their rent? What will that do that? So I'm curious, maybe from the realtor standpoint. I mean, we do have a realtor out there that's doing his TikToks and promoting the bond and supporting, that particular instance and interviewing. And, again, he seems to be in favor of it. Why would a realtor be in favor of it? Maybe I'm just dumb and I'm not as smart as Crazy Eyes. Who knows?
I would like the opportunity. Thank you. That'd be great. Ms. Bradshaw, let us know whenever you are free. Again, from here to November 4th, we're gonna hit it hard. Roman, any last words?
Oh yeah. Oh, can I answer something that the guy? That was somebody was said earlier. Jesus
Sure.
was saying BISD bond bad for Joey. Joey Lopez should win his reelection. I would disagree that he'll win not win, that he will win reelection. He has two Democrat opponents who are going to probably be strong opponents for him. Probably go into a runoff. No guarantee even wins. It could be a situation like what happened with Eddie Garcia when Eddie Garcia was able to beat the longtime incumbent Tony Izaguirre. But you do have a Republican person that's running. Her name is Barbie Lopez. She's running as a Republican, and we'll face them in November. And I think Republicans can do well in that particular map, in that particular precinct. And you're saying Vicente should win his reelection, not when you have a map that is not a +9, but it's, some people even argue it's even a Republican +11 seat. And here's the other thing that people are not realizing. There is currently a Green Party candidate running in that race. A Green Party candidate running in that race. Do you think that benefits Republicans, or do you think that benefits Democrats? I would venture to say it would benefit Republicans, because a person voting Green is probably a person that might vote for a Democrat if they had a choice between only a Republican and Democrat. And you only have to look to what happened last year in November with Morgan Lamantia. Morgan Lamantia lost in large part because there was a Green Party candidate there. So no, Vicente is not going to win re-election. I'm not even sure he's going to be on the ballot in March. And you say Eddie Trevino should too. I'm not sure about that, because you do have potentially Steve Guerra. We don't know where he's going to run, Republican, Democrat. We have no idea. I heard this weekend that he's not even going to run. That he's not going to run Republican or Democrat. This is also chauffeur Steve. I'm not sure about that. And so let's say they run in the Democrat primary. Eddie has a good shot of winning in November. But if you have a lot of money coming in from Republicans for governor on down, U.S. Senate on down, Congress on down, this is going to negatively affect people like Eddie Trevino and the Democrats countywide, which is why I want somebody like Turi to run as a Republican for county treasurer, because I have no doubt that he could bring out votes to be able to win and help him and other Republicans win countywide.
I think there's going to be a Democrat that's going to run against County Judge Eddie Trevino. I don't know why. I don't know why I feel that way.
And not Steve Guerra, not Steve, just somebody else.
Potentially, I don't know. I honestly think whether it's Steve Guerra or not, I think somebody is going to run in the Democratic primary against Eddie Trevino. They want to muddy the water. They want to make them work. They want to make them spend money now. So by the time November comes, he's already gotten it from all angles. I think he's aware of that. So there is no question that our county judge does have the resources available, the backing available. Is it going to take someone like Steve Guerra? Is it going to take someone like Mauro Garza to dethrone our county judge? Only time will tell. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel titled Frankie Olivo TV. Best believe Good Morning Brownsville will come on Monday through Friday at 9 a.m., sometimes a little bit after, religiously. So make sure that you subscribe to all of our social media platforms, but more importantly, subscribe to YouTube. My name is Frankie. This is Roman. Peace.